It is now time for the Port Podcast.
In 3, 2, 1, we are rolling. We are back with a fantastic episode of the Port Podcast, and I'm so stoked. We have Chris Elias from Fundy Harbour Group. Welcome to the Port Podcast.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks
here.
for having me.
You're in the Port Podcast studio. How do
You can't
feel?
escape now.
No,
You're in.
I saw you guys locked the door after we entered. Yeah.
Session in progress. It's the real deal. We're talking real stuff today. So thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your busy schedule. There's so much happening, so we're so excited that you've came to talk to everybody about what's been going on and a little bit about Fundy Harbour Group.
Absolutely. No, thank you guys again. Appreciate the chance to come on. And we, as you know, I mean, it's kind of good timing now with the boardwalk public space portion of the project just having opened up with the patios.
Yeah.
And probably by the time this airs, there will be all the public space.
We'll just assume that it's all open.
Yeah.
Let's
It's
just
all-
say
that's right. We're
we're
ready.
so close. We'll assume it's open.
Yeah. So, that's a key milestone for moving this whole project forward. The public space was always a big part of what made this project kind of come together. As you guys know, the city was always stewarding the opportunity for getting that project developed, and it really was. Prerequisite that there was a private partner and then there needed to be a public partner. So the city came to the table in a big way, as did the province, and as did the feds. So part of unlocking that trilateral funding was contingent on having a private partner in place. So we were happy to have been selected by the city after they put out an RFP in 2019, I believe it was. So it's exciting for us to be here at this kind of milestone where now the public space is opening up.
So the Fundy Harbour Group, you are the private company behind the total development and renaissance of Water Street. So this is a port podcast, so we gotta bring it back a little bit to the Port Authority. So our vested interest is to have a great, vibrant Water Street that's good for the community, but also good for the cruise business as well. We welcome 200,000 cruise passengers. So we are tremendously thrilled about what you're doing at the Fundy Quay site. But maybe let's start a little bit about, who is the Fundy Harbour Group and what is your role specifically, Chris?
Yeah, so Fundy Harbour Group really has been in operation for about 20 years now or so, but not as we know it today as Fundy Harbour Group. So my dad was is still, but at that point that he started this kind of a serial entrepreneur and was involved in all sorts of different stuff. And while he was maintaining his medical practice, he also started to get into real estate up in Campbellton, where we're from originally, and then moved to St. John in '98, and my mom's from here, and then started to kind of grow out his kind of real estate ventures, and me and my brother started working. I guess you could say we started working for the company at a very, very young age.
Very young.
Yeah. But started working kind of in earnest probably around 2007 when they were just completing the redevelopment of 33 Charlotte Street.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that was a mixed-use redevelopment project. It was an old, retail office space and converted it into about 32 all accessible, fully barrier-free, and all NB housing, fully affordable units. And there was no projects like that going on at the time. So that was really a need that my dad had seen through his medical career, that really there wasn't accessible housing in the uptown core, and that provided such a great location being so close to the Pedway. So that was his first kind of major project in St. John, and then things have grown from there, and a couple other projects since then, most recently the redevelopment of the City Hall building.
And that's very noticeable.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, so that's kind of the history of how we came together and where we were as a company, and when the RFP came out in 2019.
It's refreshing to hear that, because, you know, when you reference your father's medical career, you know, taking care of people, it's outside of just when they leave the first part of care, right? They need to have a safe place to be able to go, to be able to recover, to be able to thrive in a community. And that's something I've really noticed about your extensive portfolio, is that it's not just commercial, it's not just resident, it's everything. And it's obviously that very high level, big picture thinking and those relationships that you've all established to be able to do these type of milestone projects. So it's very refreshing to hear about being able to just take care of people in a bigger picture sense of things. And I'd be curious to know, like, what does it make you feel when you're going past these buildings? Because in 1998, you're here, you're young, and now you're seeing places that you've driven by be developed. What does that sense of pride mean to you?
Oh, it means a lot. You know, I think in the affordable housing space, it's really, especially nowadays, it's really easy to get caught up in the numbers, and the numbers are very important, but if you just focused on the numbers, sometimes it can be kind of defeatist. Whereas if you consider that, you know, even no matter how many units, affordable housing units you're bringing to the market, that often is providing the best housing that client may have had in their life, and that's one more opportunity for someone to, you know, improve their health or improve other social outcomes in their life. So I think a lot of the times it's easy to get caught up in, you know, oh, well, we can't really move the needle on housing unless something drastic happens. And I don't disagree with that, but I also think that it's important still to focus on every individual, and even bringing one new unit to market has an impact. So it means a lot to us.
Yeah. So back to Water Street. So kind of walk us through 2019 to now. You started the podcast sharing about the big moment that St. Johners are celebrating, which is the boardwalk and the public space. And I know everyone's really looking forward to that. That's going to add vibrancy, you know, this summer on. Tell us a little bit about, and our guests a little bit about the evolution from 2019 and what you're looking at constructing at the full site over many, many years.
Yeah. So really since 2019, I mean, it's hard to believe that was just over 5 years ago since we first responded to that RFP. And the first, you know, about year and a half of that was just dealing with the lease, the legal agreements with the city, and also the funding. We were focused on you know, coming to the table with the city and supporting them in that funding application. So that's kind of what brought us through to 2021 when the funding was finally secured, and that's kind of when, you know, everyone looked at each other and we're like, okay, now, you know,
something's happening.
We finally caught the bus.
Time to go.
It's time to go. Yeah. So since then, that's when shortly thereafter that the seawall work started. That the site remediation work started, and we were very involved in that design process with the city, because obviously it needs to be integrated with our master plan. So that took us pretty much until 22, 23, and that is when at that point we had completed kind of our overall master plan design for the site with Leiden Lynch Architects out of Halifax. So they did Bishop's Landing, and we picked them. We went through an RFP process also, but we picked them because of their attention to detail, waterfront site, kind of key, you know, linchpin site in a major downtown, that their sensitivity to kind of bringing vibrancy in a way that's going to attract folks, but that's also cognizant of the existing, you know, heritage environment that they're building in. So they've been a great partner there. Good. Yeah.
I think, for anybody who's watching, and as a long-time St. Johner, these projects do take time. There's a lot of due diligence if you're going to do it right the first time and not have a poor quality product or project. It takes time, and it can be very easy to be frustrated or just wanting things to be done sooner, but it's so important to have them done and have the right working relationships and the right funding so that we see things get built. So I'm very, very excited. I wouldn't say impatient. I would say just very eager to see more people come to our beautiful city, to have more of our current population come out and enjoy the waterfront a bit more, find ways to participate in being a community, being in the community, not just being in it, working in it, living in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I find that, we've had a few guests, Monica Adair, talking about, bringing more vibrancy to these projects. And it's so important, because there are so many people who just, we're walking here. It's a great way of selling our place that we live, bringing people from all over the world. So I find it to be refreshing. So for those who might be listening or watching, sometimes the really good stuff, it takes a little bit of time to make sure that everything is in order so that it can actually happen, right?
Yeah, no, well said. And I think what I like so much about the way you phased, the way your group and the government partners that were supportive have phased this, is that the community space is first. And the redoing of the boardwalk is first. So all citizens are going to get to enjoy it. Cruise passengers that we bring in through the port are going to get to enjoy what you've done at Fundy Quay. And then you're going to strategically build the 4 buildings at the site as demand is there, and do it over time. I think, as Kate mentioned, that we deal with this a lot at the port, that incremental pushing things forward and growth is the most meaningful way to go about business, but it doesn't accept, people want things done quick, and that's just not the way the world works. So I really commend you guys from what you've done and really focusing on that community space first. It's spectacular already here now in the summer of 24.
Yeah, no, I think, like, to us, it's similar to how you guys approach things, Craig. Like, some of these bigger strategic goals, like, it's really important to take kind of bite-sized chunks, because oftentimes too it's a moving target. Like, if we had locked this deal up, say 2 years earlier in 2017, and we went ahead with building 4 phases pre-COVID, we could have been in an environment where real estate, it's so dynamic, and what people are attracted to in the built environment is so dynamic that phasing it for us is an opportunity for people to engage, like, with the space, with each phase, figure out what works and what doesn't, because it's going to be a learning process even as we develop the site. And it gives us the opportunity to take feedback, along the way. So I think it's really important for us. Like, we're always trying to balance viability and vibrancy. And I think the idea or the decision to phase it at the initial outset was based on viability. But now we're seeing that it actually is going to, probably move the needle on vibrancy as well, because the more people get to engage with the site, the more input they're going to want to have, the more ideas we're going to get from the community, and the more opportunity we're going to have to be flexible with future phases.
Right.
Yeah.
I just think that's so cool.
So the first building, when do you break ground? When do you see a first building being complete?
So we've already broken ground.
You've broken breaking news.
We've got an exclusive.
Broken ground.
Yeah.
Take that, CBC.
Yeah. For those that didn't hear our driving of the piles back in November.
Usually
December
we get blamed for that. So thank you for taking a little bit of the pressure off the port.
Yeah, that was us. So we have we drove all of our piles late 23, and then since the ground has thawed and we've been able to do all of our below grade work, we've been working on the underground parking, all the pile caps, all kind of the below grade concrete structure of the building since then. And we have another exciting milestone, which will be our first full slab will be poured next week. So you'll actually get to see, like, kind of one full floor plate of the building.
Wow.
So that is that is, I'd like to think that'd be exciting for
That
most
is.
folks. I like to get, maybe I got too into the construction
Well,
stuff.
we're a very engineer-rich group here,
Exactly.
so
No, people want to know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, they'll get
Yeah.
it here first.
people like concrete.
Yeah, exactly.
No, and I think too, it's a great way of letting people know how to come along for that ride. And I know the Port Podcast is a big proponent of allowing people to understand what is happening. What are you going by? What are you seeing? What are some of the new like updates? Can we talk a little bit about that? Can you give us
Sure.
some more exclusives?
Yeah, well, I don't know about exclusives, but I can give a bit of a rundown on
Yeah.
my
Sure.
timeline.
Sure. Yeah.
So right now, we are finishing all of our basically below grade work, and we're
Yeah.
getting ready to pour our foundation and the structural slab, and then we will probably be the rest of the summer, the next 2 months, with concrete formwork. So the first level of this building above grade is all cast in place concrete, and there's 2 levels of underground parking. So those are being built right now as well. And then late fall, we will be done with concrete for now, and then we'll be starting to put the steel portion of the building in place. So it's 1 story of concrete and then 5 stories of structural steel on top of that. So that'll be taking place over the course of the winter. Then early spring of 25, we'll start to see the building being closed, all the windows in place, and then carry on with the interior work for the rest of 25. And we'll be looking at like first quarter 2026 for our grand opening for the first building.
Excellent.
It's going to be so wild.
That is going to
and
be
again, I
game
lived
changing.
here for 35 years, right? And I'm so excited to have a world-class waterfront that people are going to fly to come see and travel and drive to come see.
So what will be the mix in that first
Yeah.
building?
So mix in the first building is primarily residential.
Residential.
Yeah. So we're going to have 79 apartments in that building. And then there is all of the ground floor is retail. And that was a big driver for us for making sure that the entire site is animated. We know we need residential housing units uptown to bring density to these sites. A really important part of making that site kind of, a 24-hour neighborhood as opposed to just some place that's animated kind of from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But we also want to make sure that folks who aren't living there feel engaged with the project, that they feel like they're part of being able to connect with the waterfront in St. John as well. So part of that mission, one of the big decisions that came out of that was that all of our ground floors are going to be animated with commercial retail uses. So that first building will have about 15,000 square feet of retail space right along Harbor Passage. So that will be kind of L-shaped, within a couple of meters of Harbor Passage, opportunity for patio areas there as well. And then in terms of the units, this is targeting to be our kind of high end of all the buildings on site in terms of the rental options. So they are going to be, we are looking at long-term leases as well. It's something that we've been doing a lot of research on in other markets. Kind of provides people a bit of a hybrid between, home ownership versus renting. You get a lot of the, certainty associated with that. So, that's what we're looking at for the Southwest building.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think it's super rad. I think it's so cool. And the thing is when you build and you work with the city, the port, when you build those relationships, then you bring those type of customers to want to live or come and live and play in our city, right? So, and if you're looking at, bigger cities, Miami, LA, and all the shows that they make about real estate, people want to come to a place that has great food, that has a great place to play, great people. Come on by, right? And the fact that you guys are really pushing that needle to build things that are inclusive of current community, the way people use the current public space, the boardwalk, I think that's really cool. Not a lot of people tend to do that nowadays. It's build the project, it serves a purpose, and people can either come in and use it or they don't, right? And I like that you guys are really holistic about how it should work. the fact that you're looking for feedback as you build so that you get the right people to want to buy into it. I think that's really, really refreshing. And I think, having things like stairs down to the water, a reimagined public space, a new stage, that's only going to want to bring other bands, artists, people from all over the world here. Mm-hmm. So as a person who lives here, I'm really excited for the project. And from your standpoint, is there anything else that you'd like to tell people just about the project that they can kind of foresee coming?
I would say, I think the biggest message for us is that we do, like you were saying, Kate, we view this as a community project.
Yeah.
We were selected by the city through a public process, and we know that that there's a lot of strong community sentiment associated with this site, and people have wanted it to be developed for a very long time. So we're trying to take a really thoughtful approach as to how we do that, because we only have one opportunity, and we think it's a huge opportunity. I'm biased as well, but I think the site's one of the best undeveloped sites in a major city on the eastern seaboard. And so I think to have this opportunity, it could be totally, it could totally redefine the waterfront in St. John, and ideally be a big mover for, for just overall vibrancy in St. John. Yep. There's a lot of positive momentum going on, in St. John already. So it kind of comes at an opportune time. But I think, like you're saying, attracting people, making Uptown a place where people want to continue to live and invest and work is what we need for sustainable growth that brings the community along with it, but that also, allows for an expansion of the community. So we're very focused on that, and I think that's important for us. If we can create a project that draws new people here, we're in a economy where people and talent is kind of the currency for future economic development right now, as opposed to needing jobs to be created first and then hoping people will follow.
It's changed a lot.
So we want to create a city where people want to live, or be a part of creating that, because a lot of other folks are contributing to that as well.
Not biased, but doing the Port podcast and learning so much behind, I call it the curtain, the wizard curtain, right? And really understanding how things work, how things are being built, who's building them. I think what's really also very cool is we had a record-breaking cruise season last year. More ships, more people than we've ever had. Them coming and seeing what's happening and telling them that next year or the following year when we're visiting again, to have more to look forward to, I think we're going to see such an increase in people searching about why they might want to come here. I think cruise lines are going to find even more people looking to come here at a different frequency. And I think we're going to start attracting additional talent and potential customers that maybe we didn't strategically plan, but it just happens organically.
Absolutely.
And I choose to live and work here. I'll be here probably my whole life. And so when I see people rolling their sleeves up and doing the work to make sure we have underground parking at this new building, and that the actual, like you said, the remediation of the walls are intact, and we're not just trying to put up a building so that it looks good. It's going to be there for the test of time. So, if you're listening or watching, and you have questions, or if there's anything else that you want to know about the project, I would definitely say, talk to Fundy Harbour Group, reach out, leave your questions on the comments on this video, and we can reach back out to you. I hope that you will answer our questions.
Absolutely.
Always. I'll just say on the port's behalf, we wholeheartedly view Fundy Harbour Group as a full partner of ours on Water Street. I think we got a lot of mutual goals. What you're doing on this side of the harbor and what we're trying to do west is all about that greater economic piece. And I think there's a lot more we can all do together. And I know we strategize a lot with your group, but we're so fortunate to have you and your family as part of this journey with us. And we view you as a very, very key strategic partner. And I know that's reciprocated, and we think there's a lot more to come too. So really appreciate you taking the time today and answering our questions and being part of this.
No problem. Thank you guys. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening and watching. And we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Port Podcast. See you later.
Thanks so much for listening.